All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Alchemy Podcast. I'm really excited for today's episode. It's actually an episode. So when I launched my podcast a year ago, I was like thinking of, okay, if I were to do a podcast, who would I have on it? And you were one of the first people I thought of.
Wow, thank you.
This is like a year in the making. Miguel, you've been someone I've worked with really, really closely for 5 years now.
Yeah, it's been
crazy.
a long time.
And I feel really honored and blessed to kind of have like a front row seat to watch you grow and expand and like really evolve. I feel like when I first started working with you, you were like a young kid.
Yeah, I was like 20, I think.
Yeah, just
19
young,
or 20, yeah.
Young. And now you're this badass CEO of one of the top solar companies out here in Florida. And, you know, I was driving over here and I was thinking about the things that like I admire about you. And one thing that's really unique about you, and I've worked with, you know, hundreds of people, is you have this natural, it feels like hunger and desire for learning.
Yeah.
Learning, growth, development, and you have like a very humble attitude about it, right? It's like coming from like this place of like centeredness and calm, like this humble desire for learning. And I'm curious, is that something you've always had, or where does like this hunger for growth come from?
Yeah, I think I was raised by a family that has really high standards, and it actually started in sports. So I played soccer for my whole life, and I was very, very consistent and disciplined, and I had really high standards for myself. And that just becomes who you are, you know, it becomes part of your identity. And then I just took that same identity and personality to business. And the reason why was, as you were saying that, I asked myself, like, why? And I think I love people so much that they deserve to see the best version of me. And that's one thing. And the other thing is it applies to leadership as well. I believe that the number one law of leadership is the law of the lid, meaning your team will never surpass your level of leadership. And that means that if you don't consistently grow, you're the cap of the potential of your people. And they don't deserve to have a cap, meaning I, as a leader, have the biggest responsibility of becoming the best version of me so they can have a better and bigger opportunity. And there is Jim Rohn, the mentor of Tony Robbins.
OG.
He says that your level of success will never exceed your level of personal development, because success is not something that you chase. It is something that you attract with the person that you become.
Yep.
And I've always lived with that quote in my life. What that means is, if you want to have more success, you have to become a person of success. And the way that you do that is by investing in you. So that's why, man. That's where everything came from. And I believe also coming from another country gave me an advantage of getting to the US and seeing so many opportunities that so many people sometimes do not see and they take for granted. So I come from a place where there's a lot of talent and maybe not as many opportunities. And I came here and I saw this world full of opportunities, and just the level of commitment to taking advantage of those opportunities and providing more for people, I think it comes as well from my background.
Yeah, and that was kind of the next question I wanted to ask you, right? Because you're an immigrant, right?
Yeah.
You come from Colombia, you grew up in Colombia.
Born
right?
and raised, yeah.
Born and raised in Colombia. How old were you when you came over?
17.
17. So was it always the goal to get to America? And like what's before you came to America, what's the perception of America as a young boy growing up in Colombia, right?
Yeah.
You kind of see movies and videos. Like what do people think of America, you know, growing
They
up in
love
Colombia?
it, man. Like that's kind of the goal when it comes to vacations, was going to Disney. And I remember it was an interesting story, because I remember we used to go on a bus to the school. And I remember my friends talking about going on vacation to Disney. And at the time, I've never been to the US. And I would say that I have been, but I was lying, because I was kind of like ashamed of not being able to go to the US. And then I ended up living here in Orlando. Like, what's the coincidences? But yeah, people see it as a huge opportunity. It's really the American dream. It's not easy to come, of course. And then I traveled here, and I just said, this is the place that I want to build my life.
Where did you first visit?
When?
Where?
I think Miami.
Yeah.
I think that was the first place that I went to. I also went to New York.
What's that like? I mean, growing up in Colombia, then being in New York.
Huge, yeah. Well, I was born and raised in Bogota, which is the capital city.
Big city.
So I was pretty used to capital cities and big cities. So I love New York. I actually was going to move to New York when I first came to live here, and I went to tour NYU. Didn't like it and stayed in
Yeah.
Orlando. But yeah, it was an awesome experience. And from the first time that I came, I was like, yeah, I want to live here. I want to study in the US. Didn't know how it was going to happen. I literally had no plan. Then it happened, dude.
Walk us through it. I mean, because it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, couple things that stand out to me, right? I think as Americans, we underestimate how incredible the opportunity it is to live in America,
Oh yeah.
right? A lot of people, we just don't know
Yeah.
what it's like to be in an economy and grow up in a country or a city where we don't have access
Yep.
to this much opportunity. And so coming, from Colombia, picking up your whole life, moving here, when you look at like the opportunity, what do you think most kind of Americans take for granted?
Starting from the most simple things, literally water, electricity, internet, roads.
Yeah.
Like driving in other countries is insane. Security is a huge one. Like walking in the streets of a capital city of another country, you gotta be careful sometimes.
Yeah.
And just the peace of mind that you feel here when you're just walking and you don't start thinking all the time what you have on you. Like I have my phone, I have my watch, maybe something's gonna happen. I'm looking at my back all the time to see if somebody's behind me. It's just a different lifestyle, man.
You're just more on high alert.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. It just
yeah.
depends, of course, in the places that you're in, but security, traffic, opportunities are just different, And I was raised in a middle, high-level family, so I always had everything. I went to a good school. I wasn't rich, but I had everything that I needed. So I got to experience, like there's really nice I lived in a capital city. Like I had Wi-Fi, I had electricity,
resources.
everything. But on purpose, for example, I went to a service trip 2 years ago with my company. And we went to literally a forgotten place in La Guajira, Colombia, where kids, they don't even know what a mattress is. They don't have phones, they don't have electricity, they don't have water. And then every time that you see that, you become a little bit more grateful every single day that you wake up. One of the things that I'm grateful for on a daily basis is for waking up and going to sleep in this country legally, fully. And I think a lot of people take it for granted, man. So we don't know what we don't know. And what I encourage people, which you have done, is just go out and explore the world a little bit. Because when you come back, you're going to see this from a different perspective. And when you change the perspective that you look at things, the things that you look at change.
Yeah. And, it's every time I travel outside of the country, every time I land back in America, I'm like, oh, I'm so glad to be home, right? Because you just feel it. There's just like a different energy here. And so one thing that stands out to me with you, Miguel, is not only, you're this young boy, the soccer player, right, in Colombia, want to move to America. Not only did you come here, right, you came here and built a successful business. Like some people are just like, if I can just get to America, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like if I can just get to America, that'll be it. Not only did you get here, you actually are thriving here.
Yeah.
And you're a top 1%er. Like you got to America, you're beating out a lot of Americans in the game, right?
Yeah.
And you're a top entrepreneur. And what was it like for you growing up in Colombia, coming to America, building a successful business, and then making money for the first time? Like real money, not like getting by, but like, you got to a point where you started making real money.
Yeah.
Like
one of the things that I started admiring about the way the US is built is that when you go to school, you also have the opportunity of working at the same time. And actually in jobs, you get the opportunity of making a good income, like server, they get good tips. Like in Colombia, that does not happen. If you're going to school, most of the time you're not working. There's just so much and you can't work at the same time. So I believe just starting working at 16 or 17, it starts kind of like building people, managing their own money, moving out home, kind of like building their own lives. In Colombia, it's not as fast. And then making real money, man, I think money just makes you more of who you are, So it's incredible. I was grateful. I remember the first time that I made in revenue $1 million, then the first time that I made in net profit $1 million. And I was like, wow. And I've always had dreams, dog. Like one of the things that I wrote down and I read every single night for years was I will be a millionaire in my 20s and a multimillionaire in my 30s. But my goal was to be a millionaire at 30 years old. And I had the fortune, and everything I've done is just God through me. It's not me. And I did it way sooner. And then when I did it, I started realizing that it's just a consequence of the value that I'm providing to the world and the problems that I'm solving and who I'm becoming. That's just the result of who I am. And my standards started to go up as well. So yeah, it feels incredible, man. But it also, the main goal and the purpose behind the money, it's truly being able to help people and make an impact and provide more opportunity.
Yeah. And, you talk a lot about how much of it is you get paid in proportion of the amount of value you provide in the marketplace. And you're in the business truly of leadership,
Yeah,
right? You're in the
people.
leadership development business, really.
Hmm.
You're recruiting, you're training, right? You're developing young leaders, you're getting them to step up and level up. And now, we mentioned you just broke off a whole nother new office, and now you've got 2 offices now.
Yeah.
And, what are some of the biggest leadership mistakes you've made, right? Because I know this job has really high attrition, really
Yeah.
high turnover. It's a kind
Yeah.
of a money hungry
Yep.
job, solar, and people are always kind of out to get you, and people will, bail on you and whatnot. And so I'm curious if, looking back to, when you first started building Sunbright, right? What are some things you wish you knew about leadership, and what are some of those mistakes you feel
Yeah.
like you've made?
The first one that comes to mind is never sacrifice culture for money.
Mm.
I think there's a point where the people that culture, first of all, let's define the meaning of culture, right? I believe culture is value alignment, just matching the values, right? So one of the first things that I didn't recognize is I was making every single decision and managing people. And I believe there was a difference between a good company and a great company. I believe a good company manage people and develop systems, but a great company manages systems and develop people. Like we're not made to manage people. We're made to develop people. That's what leaders are supposed to do, and then the systems just manage everything else. So part of those systems is core values, meaning this is the way that we do things here. And a good culture means we align in the values that we have. And there's a lot of times that I realized that people in my company did not align with the core values. And I accepted it and I didn't do anything. And I realized another leadership mistake is decision making. I took too long to make decisions, and not making a decision is also making a decision.
Right.
And it's most of the time the wrong one. So things started happening, and I just spoke on this in a solar conference as well. And I said, you never sacrifice culture for profit, because if you do, the people that you were supposed to let go are going to leave anyways. And A players will leave as well. People that you didn't want to let go will leave as well, because they realize that they don't want to be in that culture.
There's a misalignment.
And you promote what you tolerate, So I was tolerating things that I was not willing to promote. So every time now that happens to me is, will I promote this behavior in my company? If the answer is no, I shouldn't tolerate it. That was one big one. The other one probably was not having the right leadership development process, meaning when people wanted to step up as a leader, it's like, okay, now you have a title. And then you understand that leadership is not about title. That's the lowest level of leadership. And I read the 5 levels of leadership from John Maxwell. It changed my leadership career. And now we have an actual process when you go to leadership, just like there is a rep onboarding, there is a leadership onboarding that you have to go through. You have to understand how it works. And it's just a whole nother level of your career. It's not like sales. Now you have to do sales and more, right?
Yeah.
And most people don't understand that. So
yeah. So 2 questions on that, right? This is really good stuff, right? So for someone listening and they're like, all right, I've been in sales for a while and I'm ready to kind of take that next step and become a leader and build a team. You talk a lot about core values. So
Yeah.
just to kind of give people, some insight here, I'm curious, what are some of the top core values at Sunbright?
Yeah, we have 4. Growth is one of them.
Growth?
Yeah, growth. So we want people to consistently grow, not only professionally. You say this all the time. People don't have a sales problem. They have a personal problem that's affecting their sales. So we have a book club. We have a fitness club. We expect people to level up their life and help them level up their life, not only their sales. And when that happens, they start selling more for some reason. So growth is one of them. Commitment is another one. Another mistake is accepting part-time people. I've never seen success with somebody else doing this part-time
solar
ever
do well
ever. But in the beginning, you just want more bodies in the room, and you're like, okay, I'll accept it. So Commitment is just going all in. It's doing what you say you're going to do, and commitment with your words and with your job and with your career. The next one is loyalty, and it's really having each other's back. And the last one is communication, and it's the value of your words and being communicating up. We use something that's called 131. So you don't come with a problem without a solution, right? So there's a challenge, come with a challenge, 3 possible solutions, and 1 recommendation, 131. So every time there's a challenge.
Yeah, give us an example of something like that recently.
Well, I'll give you an example. There was a challenge with a homeowner that we had where they didn't sign something, and we completed the work, and now there's a challenge on the fulfillment of that because we didn't sign the right paperwork, right? So my operations teams come to me with the challenge, and it happened yesterday actually. So they came and it's like, hey, this is going on. And I'm like, okay, and what's next? What are you gonna do about it? And then that's when it comes to empowering people. Another thing that we do sometimes is, because we're so used to solve problems and we solve the problems for our people, you take the power away from them to solve their own problems. You take their own ability of problem solving away from them. So I'm like, okay, what are 3 possible solutions? And they're like, I haven't thought about it. It's like, okay, come when you have them. And they came with 3 possible solutions and 1 recommendation. And then there's something in leadership that is called decision fatigue. We have to make a lot of decisions on a daily basis. And if you invest your energy and time in every single decision, then you're going to be burned out by the end of the day, right? And you will not make good decisions. But if your team comes with actual recommendations, then the decision is, well, do I align with the recommendation? Do I not align with the recommendation? Is way easier and faster to run everything. So just creating those systems around your team and then getting everyone on track with these are the core values. And if you align with this, awesome. If you don't, we still love you. Something that I learned is love is unlimited, time is earned. So I love everyone. I don't have a limit of love. It's unlimited. But to be here, that's another thing. We're not a family. We're a community. There's a difference. You're born in a family and you're supposed to belong to that family for the rest of your life. Like you're just born in that
Whether
family
you like
with
them or
that.
not,
Yes.
family.
And you don't have to do anything to belong to the family. You're born and that's it. But you do have to contribute to belong to a community, and we're a high-level community. So when you start making and realizing the different concepts that you promote, I believe the culture in the company changed and everyone is aligned with the same core values. And again, if there is standards, we have to be willing to execute the standards. Because if the standards are not executed, they become a recommendation. And recommendations don't work in business. And then your team is going to start understanding what you tolerate. So, okay, you say loyalty is a core value, but this guy's not being loyal and nothing happens. Then I'm communicating to everyone else that that's acceptable, and I'm willing to put the core values at risk for one person, and that can happen, right? So
yeah, I always say reps or people in your business won't listen to what you say, but they'll watch what you do. They'll mimic what you do. So whatever behavior you allow, you actually give permission for that behavior to be repeated, right? And so there's got to be this really strong high standard. Right. And it reminds me of the Brene Brown principle I've been talking a lot about. She's like, when you're engaging with someone in your office or in your team, she calls it soft front, strong spine.
Yep.
Right. So when I'm face to face with you, I'm going to be really soft. I'm going to be compassionate. I'm going to be understanding. I'm going to be present. Right. I'm going to engage with you. Right. I'm going to hear you out, and I'm going to have a really strong spine. Meaning we have standards, we have expectations, right? You committed to these, I'm not going to bend on those, right? And I think that's such an incredible leadership trait, the soft front, strong spine, and it seems like it's something you've done really, really well.
Because you can go too far in the other direction
Totally.
too. You
can be too soft where it's like, I'm going to nurture you, I'm going to help you,
or
which
too
is
hard.
Disempowering, right? Your point. Or you can be way too hard and crack the whip. Right. And so it's like this really nice balance. I also call it between a really nice balance of between flow and standards.
Yeah.
Right. Being flowing, open, right. Being in a good state and standards, being high state, right. Optimistic, enthusiastic, supportive. And at the same time, we have standards. Right. And you cannot break the standard.
There's a book that's called The Dichotomy of Leadership, and it helps you balance the 2 extremes of leadership, when to fire, when to mentor. It's being soft and being hard, right? So it's an incredible book. I think every leader should read it.
Yeah. So you talked a lot about, so most people listening in the sales space understand that there's an onboarding process for sales, right? This is the pitch. This is the product. This is how you onboard. This is how you collect payment. This is how you overcome objections, right? Pretty standard in the industry. You mentioned you have a leadership
Yeah.
process. Tell us more about that.
Same thing. I believe that when you learn your presentation on the door, who teaches you how to do a one-on-one, how to have a tough conversation, right? Like there's a process, there's a mindset that you have to follow. So I had to, we have a couple of things. One, they have to read 2 books if they want to be in leadership
What
at
are they?
Sunbright. 5 Levels of Leadership from John Maxwell and Extreme Ownership. Why? Again, that's a framework of leadership principles. And once they read that book, we can have different conversations. They will understand the concepts of you're a level 1 leader, you're a level 3 leader, you're a level 5 leader. They understand that it's not you, it's the relationship. Every relationship has a different level.
Yeah. Can you break those levels down a little bit
Sure.
more specifically?
So level 1 is position, which is the lowest level of leadership. People follow because they have to. That's the only reason. You want to get from position to permission, which is level 2, as fast as possible, and you do it through a good onboarding process, which is people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And there has to be a personal relationship with everyone that you're leading. They have to know that you're committed to their goals, meaning you need to know their goals, you need to know their why, you need to know their level of commitment, and then you get permission from them to hold them accountable to their own dreams and goals. You help them create an action plan, and you guys both commit to taking and executing that action plan. So the goal is creating a leadership. They follow you because they want to, not because they have to. Next one is production, which is very easy to fall into especially when you own a business, is like, I don't produce anymore, right? I'm just behind the office. And you said it, people don't do what you say, they do what you do. And leaders are not historians, leaders are activists, meaning it's no, I did, no, I do, and I'm willing to do. I'm not going to ask you anything that I'm not willing to do, or that I have done, or that I can do at a high level. So staying sharp in sales and still producing yourself is huge. And especially in the beginning, the best thing that you can do for your people is be an example. Same thing in production. Your people will do half of what you do right, and they will do 1,000 times what you do wrong. So you're in a stage all the time. So production is level 3. Level 4 is personal development. I believe that creates loyalty. When you develop people, not only in sales and financially, but they just start being and getting better because you're developing them in every area of life. That creates loyalty. The last one is pinnacle, which is respect, which is all the levels combined, and people follow you because what you have done overall for the organization. But you have a different level of leadership with every person that you lead. So there's a test that you can take that asks you the questions that you need to know to measure that relationship with your people. And your goal will be to get to number 5 with everyone. So that's one book that's incredible for every leader. And the other one is Extreme Ownership, and is not blaming anyone else, taking full control of everything that happens, and just taking ownership and responsibility and taking action instead of complaining and being a victim. So they have to read those books. They have to watch. We have an LMS system, a learning online system, and I recorded myself a bunch of videos. There is YouTube videos. There is mastermind calls that we have done on leadership, and it's an university on leadership, basically. There's events that they start going to as well. So there's a whole process that we follow on just getting to your next level in leadership. So they go to John Maxwell events, they go to Tony Robbins events, and they just understand the concept so we can speak the same language.
Yeah, talk to us a little bit more about that, because one thing I've noticed about you specifically, I work with a lot of leaders in the industry, right? Multiple companies, multiple industries, right? All across the country. And I would say you, more than anyone else, you develop like I remember we did a retreat, what was it, 3 years ago?
Yeah.
And 60% of the people that were at that retreat are still with you today. Like I came and spoke to your
Yeah.
office today,
Yeah.
and like you have like this core group of people that's still with you. That's rare in the industry,
It
right?
is,
It's
yeah.
really rare. And I noticed that you invest into your people a lot, right? You guys are I see you guys at Tony Robbins. I see you guys at 10XCon. I see you guys, all across the country. Tell us a little bit more about the insight and the reasoning behind really investing in your people and taking them to kind of these
Yeah.
peak experiences.
Well, one is aligned with our core value.
Right.
That's why core values are so important,
Growth.
because that's the way that you do things. We grow here. And when you win competitions, like, yeah, I can give you something that you can wear and in a year you will forget, but I can take you to an experience that will change your life, just like change mine, and you will be better. Because you're better, you'll have a better relationship, you will have a better body, you will make more money, your family is going to appreciate that, right? So that's one, just connecting with our core value. And then the other one, John Maxwell says that there's a law, that's the law of the mirror, meaning you add value to anything that you see value in, right? So the reason why I add so much value to myself is because I see so much value in myself. And I think I am literally my best investment. So one thing that I see a lot of people do is they make a little bit of money and they start asking you questions on like, what should I do with this money? It's like, okay, buy crypto, and then they just want to become rich overnight. And for me, that has never worked. My approach is you invest everything in yourself until you can't anymore. Like if you don't have $50,000 to $100,000 in cash after you invested all the money that you can in yourself, you shouldn't invest in anything else. There's no better return. And same thing for my people, right? So just the reason is because I believe in them so much and I love them so much, and I know that that's going to create a massive, massive change in their life, just like it has been in mine.
Yeah, and I think, I'm so glad you said that too, because it reminds me of a story. So in 2011 was my first year at Vivint, and my dad passed away that summer. And I decided to go out because, when I was being recruited by Casey Baugh, Casey was the one who recruited me when I was, 19, 20 years old. And I told him, I knew I did some preseason. I had like 12 accounts, and then my dad got diagnosed. And I told him like, hey, I'm not going to go out and sell this summer. Like, I don't know what's going to go on with my dad. And Casey told me, he's like, hey, if you go out this summer, and I get it if you don't want to, right? But if you do decide to go out, I will buy your flights to and from Dallas as much as you want to go home and see your dad. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, my dad could live for 2 or 3 more years. We don't know. So I thought it was a good idea. So I accepted his offer and I went to Texas, and I sold for a total of maybe 10 weeks. And in those 10 weeks, I sold like 55 Vivint accounts, and I made, not that much money, like 40, 50 grand. And at the time for me, that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I also, because of my stats, won the incentive trip, and it was a cruise. And so it was Casey's reason. We went on this cruise, and I didn't really know anybody. And I had gone home earlier that summer, and I remember sitting on the top of the houseboat with Casey, and I had like $8,000 to my name, which I thought was a lot of money at the time. And I asked him that same question, like, what should I invest in? Should I do crypto? Should I do stocks? Should I real estate, whatever I should do? And I remember thinking like, I'm going to give this money to Casey and he's going to invest it for me. And I asked him like, hey, what should I do with this money? And he kind of laughed. And he says, take every dollar you have and invest it in yourself. Go to the event, hire a coach, go to the course, right? Invest in sales training until you have learned the skill set on how to make 50,000 cash. It's like, once you have 50K in cash, come and talk to me and then we'll talk about it. But until you have 50,000 liquid, use all of that money to invest in personal development and skill set until you become the type of person who can make that much liquid, and so you say that, it just like rings true. Like, it's so true. And I look back at my life and I've invested so much money. I mean, for sure over $1 million in the last 12 years in personal development, courses and seminars and trainings. And I look back at my life now, I'm like, that's by far the best investment
ever
I ever make. Ever. The quality of your life, and you can learn these skill sets. And just like, sales is a learnable skill, right? When you first get into sales, you don't know the skill set, and you practice your pitch and you practice your door approach and you practice, you become a better salesman. Personal development is a learnable skill.
That too.
Right. And to your point, we were saying here, leadership is a skill you can learn.
Yep. I love a saying that extremity expands capacity. So every time that you put yourself in an extreme situation, your capacity to handle those extreme situations expand. And that's true with personal development. I put myself in a personal development path that was extreme. and my capacity to develop myself now expands. Even the way that you take notes changes.
Yep.
Just because I've invested hours and thousands of hours sitting down, taking notes, listening to people.
So I actually want to comment that because that's actually something you do really, really well, right? I want to pause because I want you to break this down. One thing that I notice about you, Miguel, is you will go to an event, right? Whether it's something we do together or you go to, Tony Robbins, you take incredible notes, and then I'll see you post on Instagram, like you're doing like your Sunday planning, and then you review them.
Yeah.
Right. So walk us through like your note taking process, because I actually think it's brilliant.
That's
and
huge,
and you retain so much more information because of the skill set. So share with us that skill set.
So it starts with the principle of really understanding what learning means. And I believe that the definition of really knowledge and learning is same. Alex Ramosi says this, is the same condition and a different behavior. So if I go to an event and nothing changes, then I wasted a lot of money and time. Your money. And I used to do that. Again, extremely expands capacity, right? So I put myself in too many of those, and then I would go back home and I was super motivated, but nothing changed. And I'm like, no, this has to change. And what I started doing is I realized that the magic of the event happens before and after the event. One is defining your intention. Before I go to an event, I always want to define my intention.
What's been an example of some of the intentions you've set?
So, for example, in the retreats that we have done, I define one of the biggest intentions that I had with my team was alignment, right? Even if it takes one word, what is my intention of this event, and what would be a successful outcome? Or other events have been relationships, just building relationships. And the best friends that I've made in my life have been in that same environment of masterminds. My business partner came from a mastermind, right? So that's one thing. Now, the other thing, what happens after the event is how I take notes is I'm a really good note taker. So I'm pretty organized and I take notes of everything that I like and I hear.
And you use a Remarkable, right?
I use Remarkable, but I also use a lot my computer.
Yeah.
Because I want to have it, I want to be fast, and also want to have it accessible anywhere, anytime. And then what I do is I have a separate note that is action items. So I review my notes after the event or at the night of the event, and I highlight, okay, I like this. How can I implement this in my life? And then my goal is that I walk out of that event with an action plan based on the notes that I took. And it's incredible, Doc, because that's when I actually learned something. It's like, okay, I'm just taking notes, retaining information, but then I truly understand the concept that the speaker was saying, and I understand how I can implement it in my life. And then I start texting people and putting things on the calendar and then putting it on my to-do list. And that's when the magic happens, because actually something changes. So that's a big one. That's how you invest time, energy, and money into yourself, but you really make sure you get the value back. And I do it with my team. So every time I go to an event with my team, we always do a mastermind after the event. And in the mastermind, we go through a process, review our notes, action items, and then we share with each other and we hold each other accountable. And there's something that's called WAM, Weekly Accountability Mastermind, basically, and is just doing couples and groups to hold each other accountable on what we say what we're going to do.
One thing that I remember, because I remember you brought your group out to Alchemy Summit 2 years ago, and we had her on stage. And I remember you're tagging me on Instagram, and I remember being so impressed because you were showing footage of like you guys were all in the car together, and it was like, all right, what was your biggest takeaway? What are you going to do about it, right? And holding these people accountable. And I look back in my head, I'm like, man, I've been to like a lot of the masterminds, I've been to the conferences because they're fun, they're entertaining.
Yeah.
And I can look back and I'm like, yeah, there's actually a couple of workshops I've done or conferences that I've done that I wasn't fully engaged.
Yep.
Right. I didn't take good notes, and I might have felt cool in the moment, and that's cool insight, but I didn't write it down, and I didn't leave with an action item. And I'm like, yeah, I probably missed out on a lot of opportunity there. Right.
And it's crazy because I go back to my notes. I have a Google Drive, and it's crazy. Like I can literally go back and relearn, because it's not always about learning something new. It's about remembering what you already know sometimes.
Yeah.
It's more about being reminded than taught something different.
Just getting back on the wagon.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let me ask this. How do you find your rhythm in because I experience this where I'll get really into development and leadership and growth at the cost of like my personal enjoyment and fulfillment. And I get too little too rigid sometimes, right? And I get too locked in and I take myself way too seriously, and then I'll forget and I'll like fall, kind of go back into like more of a natural rhythm. How do you find that harmony within yourself of being locked in? Because as a business owner, you've got a lot on your plate, right? And the solar industry is crazy and there's always changes, right? We just had the tax credit thing come out this week and that sparked a lot. So how do you find time to do stuff that you like to do, like your hobbies and your rituals that kind of make Miguel Miguel?
So it's a good question for you, actually. You're the expert on helping people, helping high performers do that. That's always been a challenge for me. However, I accepted the reality that I love working and I don't fight it anymore. You know, like I really enjoy, like yesterday was my birthday and he's like, what are you doing for your birthday? It's like, I'm working. Because I love doing it. Like sincerely, it's like my hobby. I enjoy it. I see it as a game. And when you see business and sales as a game, that's so important because you're having fun. You know, you're not taking it so serious. It's like playing chess every day. I just have fun, and the new challenges just make me have fun. However, there's also other things which I combine learning experiences with fun. So when I go to masterminds, for example,
that's fun.
It's fun. I travel and then I extend a little bit more of the time, and I just get to know different places and spend time with incredible people, right? So. And I exercise. The daily things is what I think is the most important. Winning your mornings is huge. So before you pour energy into other people, you pour energy into yourself. And that's how I keep myself in harmony, right? I take the mornings for myself. I meditate, I exercise, I eat healthy, I journal every day, I read. And that's fun. Like I love exercising. I love just spending time by myself before the world. And then when I show up as my best self.
And I love that because I relate to that too. It's some of my favorite things to do, just like natural enjoyment, are physical activities, hiking, yoga, working out, right? So it makes it kind of really easy.
I'm going to share something that you actually taught me this. And I think a lot of people, high performers, have to understand it and learn it. And I love playing soccer. And I remember one time I told you it's like, what have you done for fun? And it's like, work. And he's like, no, Miguel, tell me something different than work. I say, what do you like? And he's like, I love playing soccer. When was the last time you played? I haven't played in months. Why? Because I have too much work. And then you told me something that I'll never forget. And he's like, look, I want to challenge you to do something. And it's you're going to put soccer in your agenda, just like if it's a customer, weekly. You're going to go play soccer, and I'm going to show you why. Because my concept was, if I go play soccer, I'm taking away from my job. Then you helped me redefine my perspective on that. And it's like, no. When you go play soccer, if you don't do it subconsciously, your subconscious mind is telling you that you can't go do something that you love because you work. So why do you think is happening subconsciously in your mind towards your work is you're going to create resentment. And when you create resentment, you're not going to show up as your best self. You're not going to show up as your best leader. You're not going to make good decisions. However, if you do it and you have fun, then you're going to show up next day. One, you will be a better example for your people. And two, you're going to be happy. And a happy leader, that's a concept of you do so you can have so you can be. And you start being first. And when you do with that energy, the have comes by itself. Took a long time to understand it. But now I implement that, now I'm more okay taking that time for myself because I know it's actually going to help my work.
Absolutely. It reminds me of this insight of, it's if when you do things that make you feel alive, your case soccer, it energetically opens you up.
Yep.
Right. And when you're energetically open up, you're more susceptible to inspiration.
Yep.
You're going to feel more gratitude. You're going to feel grateful. You're going to feel enthusiastic. You're going to feel engaged, right? You're enjoying what you're doing. And then you literally transfer that energy to work, to relationships, to career and everything. And it actually, it's important to do things that make you feel alive, have 100%. Fun, because you transfer that. I actually remember that conversation we had a couple of years ago.
That was huge.
I was like, Miguel, you have to play soccer.
I still tell it and I still remember it consistently because it made a perspective change. And leadership, just like sales, is also a transfer of energy. So if you are not in a positive energy and you're always taking work too rigid and too serious, then you're going to transfer that energy to your team and your customers as well.
Yeah, 100%. I know I want to shift here too, because one thing that I really admire you for, Miguel, is the role that God plays in your life.
Yeah.
And one thing I can for sure tell about you is that God is the centerpiece,
Yeah.
right? It's God first, and then business and
Yeah.
relationships and health and family, right? And I can tell that you really are in service. And so talk to us a little bit more about your relationship with God and how it affects your business decisions,
Yeah.
right? And how what you're creating at Sunbright.
Yeah. Such a big question. I read once and I always resonate with this. I think business is a spiritual game. And it's so powerful, man, because every time that I'm going to make a decision now, I ask myself, what would Jesus do? And it gives me so much perspective and also gives me confidence because I know that I'm not by myself, and it lets me actually surrender because I know that this business is not mine. It's not Miguel. This is not the Miguel show. Everything is God through me. And because it's God through me, I know that every challenge, and I know that everything is happening for me and through me. He's utilizing every single challenge to make me the man that I need to be, to receive all the blessings that he has for me. But it's not for me. It's because he knows that through me, he will touch and impact other people and other lives. So when you have that connection, and it's not religion, it's relationship.
Right.
So when you have the relationship with God, just the level of confidence that you approach everything with, and the perspective of anything that happens in your life just changes.
Yeah. And I think kind of a takeaway here, for those listening, whether you believe in God or not, right? That's fine. The reason I think that a lot of this is important, and you said it really powerfully, you said it's not the Miguel show, right? And when you engage with life in coming from a place of service,
Yeah.
when you're making business decisions, what you're actually asking is what's in it for we versus what's in it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you're living through service. You're living like, how can I provide value to these people? And, and using God as that anchor point for you is really powerful, And I believe in, whether you want to call it God or the universe, the divine, I definitely believe in a higher power, a
Oh
source,
yeah.
for sure, that's guiding me. And whether that's true or not, to me, it doesn't really matter. But I think it's true. And because I believe in it, it changes my frame of reference in decision-making processes.
Oh yeah.
It's like, how can I actually provide the most value? How can every moment be better because I was there? How can I serve? Right. And just living from that state of being, you're going to make more effective,
Yep.
better business decisions.
And you said something today, and it's the highest level of living is surrendering.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you truly have a relationship with someone bigger than yourself, surrendering is way easier.
Yeah.
Because you're always divinely guided and protected, and sincerely everything is happening for you. And I have this sense of peace, dog, that when problems come, I don't get anxious anymore. I know things will be okay. I know everything's working out for me because God wants the best. He knows that through me, he's touching other lives. And you mentioned service, and there's a quote that I love that says that if you're too big to serve, you're too small to lead. And I always remember that because you can get it. There's another book that's called The Motive, and The Motive kind of like helps you understand the motive why you want leadership. There's a lot of people that want leadership because of money and power, which comes with it.
Validation.
Exactly.
Right?
Which comes and is good. Like I think having a good relationship with money and power is actually really important. But if that's the only motive why you're doing leadership, you have to know it at least. And if you are doing it to make an impact and to help and serve people, you approach everything in a different way and make different decisions.
Yeah. And one thing I want to highlight too, you said, it sounds like your capacity to handle anxiety has gone way up.
Oh yeah.
Right. And the way you get there is by going through anxious moments.
Yeah.
Right. With beginning, when you first start a business, every little problem is a catastrophe.
Yep.
And it's like the business is going to burn down and whatnot. But then you learn as you just stay in the fight, right, that a lot of these really big problems tend to kind of work themselves out.
Yep.
Right. And you've been in the industry long enough. You've seen, what was it, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, where if you could twiddle your thumbs and count to 10, you could make $100,000 in solar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Oh, yeah.
everyone was making money, right?
Yep.
And now it's not like that anymore. It's tightened up, right? And you've gone through that wave. And one thing I really, want to acknowledge you for is your resilience. And what happens is when you weather these storms and you're in the ring, you're in the arena, like you're in the ring, you're taking the punches, you just get a lot stronger.
Oh yeah.
Right. You can just handle these things a lot more. So now, like, as more business situations come through, you're like, oh, we've gone through other
Yeah.
storms. We're going to be fine.
And you know what's crazy? Sometimes how you relate that to God is there's a lot of times that we ask for strength and God gives us challenges and we complain. And that's exactly what you ask for. Like you overcoming the challenges will naturally make you stronger. We ask for wisdom and he gives you difficult decisions and we complain. And it's like, no, dude, by making those difficult decisions, you'll be wiser. He will guide you and he will protect you. So it happened to me. And then I realized it was for me. And then I realized it was through me. Last year, I tore my ACL and my meniscus, ended a long-term relationship, and lost 30% of my team within 60 days. Everything in 60 days. And then the first time that the knee happened, I was like, there's a reason why this is happening. I don't know what the reason is yet, but there's something that I'm going to learn through this. And I'm going to put this in a slideshow one day, and it will be my story. My story, and my test will become my testimonial. My mess will become my message. And I did it. Exactly what I said I was going to do. It became my story, and I was able to explain how I went from that very challenging period of time to now being a better, stronger leader, more aligned, how I learned the value of my family. So many learning experiences that I would not have learned if it wasn't for that. I got to the end of the year, and I always reflect on my year and what are the 10 best things that happened this year. And those 3 were the best 3 things that happened.
Yeah, man, it's inspiring. You nailed it on the head where it's like, if you want to, gain muscle at the gym, you have to go through really high levels of pain.
Yep.
Right. You've got to tear your muscle.
Yep.
You got to get beat down. Right. And that's the reality of life. If you want to be wise, you want difficult decisions, right? If you want to become, stronger in your business, you have to navigate the storms. My favorite quote, and I shared it today in our presentation, but it's from John Kabat-Zinn, who's a meditation teacher. And he says, you cannot stop the waves from coming, but you can learn how to surf, right? The waves of life are coming, whether you like them or not, right? Waves of anxiety and stress and overwhelm and panic and fear and frustration. It's a part of life. Can't stop the wave from coming, but you can learn how to surf that wave when it shows up. And the first time you get on a surfboard and start to try and surf the wave, you're not going to do very well.
Yep.
And you're going to fall off and you're going to feel like you're drowning, right? But you keep getting back up and you get back on the surfboard and you learn to surf.
Yeah.
And now you're at a state in your business where if a really big wave comes, you're like, I know how to surf this thing.
Yeah. And I think many people give up before they learn.
Yeah.
That there's an emotional change in the cycles of business as well. There's 4 of them. There is uninformed optimism is the first one.
Yep.
So people are super excited. This is going to be the best business in the world. It's going to be so easy. Then the next one is the expectation is different than the results. They create the value of despair. And that's when most people give up. And the next one is uninformed, is informed pessimism, meaning they actually understand how hard it is.
What have I done?
Exactly. And that's when if you really keep going, then everything changes, right? Then there's informed optimism, uninformed optimism, and informed optimism. So you said something today that's the biggest takeaway that I had in is emotional intelligence is so important in life and in business. If you understand how to regulate your emotions, you will be anything that can happen, you will handle it better. And one more thing, I believe everyone should have a dog in their life, because a lot of the things that I'm saying today I couldn't have done without you. Regardless of not only the name is the figure that you represent, of having somebody next to you that's not working on your sales, it's not working on your business, it's not working on your leadership, it's working on you. It's helping you understand your fears, your insecurities, how you actually feel. As leaders, there's a lot of times that we don't have anyone to complain with. So having someone that you can openly talk to that can give you an objective perspective of what's going on, and just a consistent voice that you have that everything is going to be okay, relax, it's a cycle, do this, do that, checking in on you is so crucial in leadership. So that's one of my biggest advices as well.
Thank you, brother. It's been absolutely a joy working with you over the years, and I feel honored really to work with you and, to and I've learned a lot from you
Thank
too,
you.
as well, man. And to be kind of on this front row seat and be able to watch your business grow and expand and get better. And I know, like, to me, like, I feels like your best music hasn't even been played yet,
Yeah,
right?
I know it.
You're still
I
getting
know
warmed
it.
up, man. It's
Yeah,
just like you've seen a lot of success. A lot of people look up to you. A lot of people admire you. You've done some great work, and I know, like, it's just going to get better and better for you,
you
man.
will. Amen.
Yeah. Well, Miguel, I appreciate you coming on the
Thank
show,
you.
man. So many golden nuggets. This will definitely be a show that people will want to listen to over and over again. For those that are listening, where can they find you on Instagram?
Miguel Angel WT.
All right, brother. Appreciate it. Thanks for
Thank
being on
you
the
so
show.
much.
Love you, man.
Honor. Thank you.
Thank you.